Hi everyone, this is Jeremy and Emma, and our presentation is on the package Lubridate.
What does Lubridate do? Lubridate makes working with time objects easier. There's several new classes of objects. It also adds many new functions to work with these new classes and default are time objects. The first thing that's important to do with the Lubridate package is to create a date-time object. When you create a date-time object, you use the format YMD, and you enter a character string which specifies the year, the month, and the date. Parts of the date time can be separated by slashes, dashes, commas, periods, or spaces. You just need to specify when you're making the object. You can also add time to the object, such as adding hours, minutes, and seconds by adding an underscore HMS to your time object. The letters in the function can be reordered, but the entered character string must match the order. For example, you could have month, day, year, as long as you do MDY. An example of creating a date-time object is the first one is in the format month, day, year, hour, minute, second, and you can tell because those are the order of the letters in the object, and that's the order that the character string is entered. This character string specifies the time zone, which is Chicago in America, and you can see that it outputs the date that we entered in the time zone, America, Chicago. The second time you can see is entered in a different format. It's year, month, date, underscore, hour, minute, second in the time zone, US Pacific. And when you enter that, you can see that that's the output.
So all the new classes of objects, which are adds, are time spans, and there's a few different types of time spans. The first is a duration, which is a measure of total time, and that's in seconds. Then there's periods, which is also a measure of total time, but instead of just seconds, it gives units of days, hours, minutes, and seconds. And lastly, it adds intervals, which measure a time span from one specific date time to another. And those are of the form, it'll be one default R looking like object, and then two dashes, and then the end time of the time span, or the interval. So R adds functions to work with all of these new classes and to create these new objects in these classes and stuff like that. And so, for example, for durations, the duration function creates a duration, and it takes a number, which is the amount of time, and then units, which is the unit which the time is being read as. And then there is as duration, which turns periods, intervals, and diff times into durations. So on the period side of things, there is the period function, which has arguments for week, day, hour, minute, and second. And you enter numbers for each of those for however many you want there to be in the period. And then as period for taking duration or diff time or intervals and turn it into a period. And then there's period to seconds and seconds to period. And what those do is they either take a period and give you a total number of seconds, or they take you it takes a total number of seconds and gives you a period. So for interval functions, there's actually a lot of functions for working with intervals, which are added by Lubridate. And the first one for creating an interval is just interval, and it takes a start time, an end time, and a time zone. And the start and end arguments of the interval function take default R date time objects. Then there's as interval for turning period, duration, or diff time objects into an interval. It's important to note that this also has a start argument, because since it's from a specific time to another time, you need to specify when it starts so it knows where to end. And then there's also int start and int end, and those are for viewing or changing the start or change ending points of an interval object. So some more interval functions are int overlaps, which takes two different intervals and tests to see if they overlap in time at all. It will return true if they do and false if they don't. Int flip flips an interval, so if the starting point will become the end point of the interval and the end point will become the new starting point. And then there's also int shift, which takes two arguments, one which is an interval and then another which is by, which tells R how much to shift the interval by. And the by argument takes a period or duration time object. So here's some examples of some functions and how they work with time spans. So you can see in the first one, we create an interval by entering two different default date time objects and specifying the time zone. And then you can see we use as period to take that interval and turn it into a period. And then we create a duration object using the duration function. And then you can see we shift the interval we originally created up by the amount of the duration we created. And then we test to see if the first interval and the second interval overlap, which they do.
The next category of functions that the LibreDate package handles are time zones. So the time zone function allows you to get or set a time zone component of a date time object. So if you had a time zone and then you entered in time 1 in the parentheses, it would give you the time zone of time 1. With time zone, it gets the date time in a different time zone. So you would enter in a date time object and then the new time zone, and it would convert your date time object to a different time zone. Olsen time zones you would put in your date time object, and then you would enter in the name and then the longitude of the new time zone that you wanted. Another more useful functions for setting and extracting time elements are week, year, month, day, and seconds. And these all basically have the same function as they get or set each component of the week, year, month, day, or second. And they're pretty useful. They're good, they're simple, but they're useful. Time rounding functions are if you want to round up or round down a time. So for floor date, it rounds the date to 12 a.m. on the current day. Ceiling date rounds the date to the next day. Rolls back the date to the last day of the previous month. So if you entered in July 23rd, it would give you June 31st because it's the last day of the previous month. Fit to timeline fits dates that can't exist onto a real timeline. So for example, if you entered in February 30th, it would give you March 2nd because February 30th is not an actual calendar date. Some examples of setting and rounding are if you created the date time object, and if you do rollback date 1, year of date 1 is 2020, and it would give you the new date of date 1. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
What?
You're supposed to say, I'm Denny Siegel and I approve this message.
Oh, I forgot.
Just yell it now.
I'm Denny Siegel and I approve this message.
All right. Thanks.